Welcome to Book Dragon Banter, a podcast where three aspiring authors talk all things books for fantasy-focused, but not exclusive. Join Sage, Katherine, and me, I'm Zinzi Bree, as we read This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews. Read or reread along with us. We're so glad you're here. Now's a great time to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. We will be keeping spoilers out of the read-along as we're saving them for our mini-season wrap-up pajama party at the end of all of these recordings. I have already read the book multiple times, so we're testing Sage and Katherine's self-control to not read ahead yet with this one.
Already fucked it up.
It was really hard, but luckily I was just reading it to my chapters last night, so it was like, okay, I just need to go to bed. Don't read it all night.
I did really well yesterday, and then I was rereading this morning, and I couldn't stop. I was just enjoying it, and then I was like, wait a second, I didn't hear this yesterday. And then I looked, and I was like, oh, oops.
No spoilers, don't spoil it for me.
Yep, you gotta hold on to it, keep the spoilers inside. That said, Katherine already swore, but we're an explicit podcast, so we can give our honest, unfiltered opinions.
I'm going to be recording some of my responses as I go, and hopefully that will keep me from reading ahead. Like, that'll give me a little bit of impetus. So, fingers crossed I can do it.
Yay. Next up is our chapter summary, sponsored by Book Dragon Inc., our company, where we host monthly themed writing retreats online with workshops, access to book coaches, and writing sprints, and community. You can check out our upcoming retreats with the link in the show notes. On to the summary. This episode is our kickoff, and we are covering chapters 1 through 5, where Maggie gets dumped in a ditch in the city of Kair Toren, naked, as one does when you're isekai'd. She decides to use her knowledge about the book world she finds herself in to steal from an asshole, and surprise, gets murdered by him in chapter 1. That's right. Maggie dies. End of book. Oh, wait. It's like 400 pages more? Let's see what happens. The series is called Maggie the Undying. I guess we'll keep reading.
Maggie wakes up on a riverbank, naked again, with the bag of coins she stole, finds a corpse and steals his cloak before an oozing monster eats the corpse. Understandably, Maggie runs away, but not before saving the cat. Fox otter Stelka creature who had tried to eat her in her sleep in the first chapter. From there, Maggie heads towards the only place that will take her coin when basically naked and not slit her throat. But on the way, she crosses paths with the bad boy himself, the sleepless Duke, Everard Visalva. He gives her some coins in passing, and Maggie fangirls because what's a mortal to do in the face of such shadow daddy energy? After collecting herself, she hightails it to the Garden of Soft Blossoms. Once there, Maggie sees her first casual use of magic as glowing butterflies swarm her after the end of a stage performance. She learns she can not only understand Relzian, but speaks it, and that she is in fact in her own body and didn't get swapped with someone else. Also, she finally gets a bath, and she meets Galiene of Sosna, a favorite supporting character in the original books, with a very tragic ending that made Maggie scream at a book for the first time. Galiene will let Maggie stay the night at the garden in honor of her god.
Next, we learn about plumbing, and yes, toilets and butt paper can't exist in a medieval setting. We learn lord and lady means landed nobility, sir and dame mean a knight, and tur and tress are the ordinary middle class that Maggie is now dressed as. Also, thank goodness she got some clothes. All the women braid their hair or something, and Maggie goes back to the main rooms since the garden is expensive and she'll probably never be able to afford it again. Here, she sees the loudest dressed man in the city, the villain himself from the books, Ulmar Hreban. His name is hard to pronounce. The very person who set Kair Toren aflame, literally. But more importantly, at this moment to Maggie, he will eventually steal Galiene's daughter, use her to blackmail Galiene, and torture them until he moves up in the world and decides to kill them both. Maggie's thoughts are broken into by a handsome stranger who mocks Hreban without fear of repercussions and takes an interest in Maggie. He's called away before he can say more. Maggie finally gets some sleep. In the morning, Maggie reviews her options, counts her money, and thinks about how magic works in this world. Realizing no one is trustworthy and her only power is her knowledge, she resolves to become an independent power broker, keeping her secrets to herself and changing as little as possible to keep her knowledge valuable. Then Maggie looks at Galiene and immediately gives her a warning to save her daughter and herself from Hreban's clutches, using a secret that Galiene can check so she'll take Maggie seriously. Finally, chapter 5. She's decided her first task is to secure a place to live, and without identification of some kind, Maggie is pretty much screwed. out of most options. While searching, Maggie is warned away from a street for good reason. There's a dead man with a sign that says, "I stole from Baron Hreban." Hreban. I'm going to screw up his name every time. With city guards paid to watch over the scene.
So angry and disgusted by Hreban tactics, Maggie heads to the Three Moons, where she uses a secret knowledge from the books to gain access to the wine cellar and Solentine Degarra. I did listen to the audio, but just don't test me too far. I will fail the test. Solentine Degarra, who is movie star, handsome, smart, witty, and the head of the Shears, a crime syndicate that specializes in espionage, sabotage, and rumors. And then when Solentine got involved, he added informants, thievery, and assassins to the list. So he is a bastard son of a Margrave and is one of Maggie's favorite characters, except that it kind of turns out he's not really a character, and Maggie could end up dying here in this wine cellar again, or on the stairs, the case may be. And she makes a deal with Solentine in the end, using her information from the books to speed up an event that was going to happen anyways. And she tells him that she will be back in 1 week time for payment. And when the deal is made, she leaves knowing she will be followed. And she heads into a fabric shop and says that she's going to go use the back door. But instead, she uses a little bit of sneaky trickery to get rid of her tail. And she slips away.
And that's it for chapters 1 through 5. Think we covered it.
Get better at the names as we go, I think.
We'll just start using other names. Let's see. Hreban could be habanero at one point. So habanero, we'll find some other H words for his name when we pronounce it.
Sweet. I was about to call Solentine, saltine, like saltine crackers. So
Solentine.
was that it?
Yeah.
Solentine,
okay.
whatever. He's a saltine.
I
now.
love that name. That was my favorite name of the whole first 5 chapters. I was like, yes.
So far.
Chef kiss. Yes.
It's beautiful.
Moving into our first key moment, our opening hook. This story is told in the first person of Maggie. There's lots of information. And I wanted to know immediately for you guys, was getting all that information because she's now been dumped into this world. She's got memories from the previous book version that she's constantly giving the reader to inform them of her own knowledge, even if it's different from what's actually happening in front of her. Did you guys find that a turnoff, or did you find that like a way to ground you into the story and the world?
I found it totally natural because if I'd just been dropped into / for those who didn't pick up on it, isekai'd, which is where a reader falls into the world of the book or is, murdered and wakes up there or falls asleep and wakes up there, whatever the case may be. When someone has been isekai'd into a story and becomes a character in it, they then have to really consider all of these elements through new filters. So it made a lot of sense for me to have that. It didn't feel like too much of an info dump, really. It didn't distract from me.
I thought the author did a great job because it started with this thing with Maggie having this rock and like being obsessed with her rock. And we didn't know what that was about. And okay, so I'm going to just say all of that I read about this book was what's on the cover, which is the title, and whatever Zinzi said. Like, I didn't even read the inside bit where it says what happens to her. So I had no idea. I guess I knew it was a portal fantasy based on, or isekai based on our conversation, but I didn't. If I had read the inside flap, I kind of would have known pretty much everything. I still haven't read it. Well, I read a little bit of it after reading the chapters. So I didn't know what was happening at all. And even, I'll get into that later. So anyways, I thought like it centered you on like her being there dirty and like basically naked and like surviving as a beggar with this rock. And you're like, okay, what's going on with the rock? So then it started to explain what was happening and how her view of the tower with the like petals, which is here on the front cover, right? Like that.
Tower.
Yeah, that was like the first hint that you got that she was in the book that she had read about before. And then it turned into, I wouldn't even call it info dump. I would call it exposition because I thought it was handled by doing that, hooking you into like what's happening with her in this rock and then kind of leading into like how she had gotten there. I totally thought that she had amnesia. I don't know. I was like, oh, she has amnesia. And then I was like, oh no, I don't think she actually does have amnesia. So I misread a little bit. It'll be fun to go back and read it a second time and see. It keeps talking about her mom and her brother. And like, if you have amnesia, You should. Yeah. So then I figured it out and I was like, oh yeah, obviously.
She had to figure things out, so we were kind of figuring it out along with her, as opposed to a character who is already living in this world and had been her whole life. She wouldn't have to figure out how much money she has, how much the coins are worth, or like all that kind of thing. But she is, because she read the books so much, she knew like general directions and some very general facts.
Yeah, and I liked how that allowed the reader to get a sense of the world since she already knew it without having to learn alongside the character. Occasionally, she would like compare whatever was going on with something in the real world. And that would occasionally, like she's mentioned the Met Museum at one point.
Yeah.
That pulled me out of it a little bit, but it makes perfect sense for her character that's how, like, if I was there, that's probably what I would be doing, is trying to like make analysis and compare things so that I could like center myself a little bit. And I loved how it kind of gave, because I read a ton of like fantasy and romantasy where the characters are swearing and using modern language in this fully fantasy setting. And it
feels like
fine,
they should have
but
their
also,
own instead of modern terms in there for swearing. Yeah.
100%. And so like this was great because it was like, you know, it wasn't anachronistic. It like dropped her in.
Just from these initial 5 chapters that you guys have read, if I hadn't been like, we're absolutely doing this for the podcast, hold your horses, don't read it on your own, do you think you would have picked up the book and liked it so far?
Definitely.
Clearly, Katherine read ahead, so she was enjoying herself.
And lost her self-control
to keep going. I think so too.
That's not abnormal.
I definitely, if I wasn't holding myself, I would have kept reading if I wasn't like holding myself back. I am not a huge cozy. We've talked about this before. I don't love cozy as much as you do, Zinzi. And this is like and that like the gruesome dude with his shoulders chopped off, arms chopped off. I was like, yes.
Yeah, his hands were chopped off, and then they were they were burned to seal the injuries so that he could just sit out there in the sun and die in misery with nobody coming to help him.
There was like the detail of like the tracks of tears through the blood on his face, and I was like, and I actually thought that was a really great use of Maggie, like knowing that she's a human woman like me means that she's witnessing, like I'm fortunate in this world that I don't see violence like that in my day-to-day life.
Yeah,
and so
in person.
It almost hit harder than like when I was reading, say, Game of Thrones, and there's all this like super gruesome stuff. But that's how it is in that world. So you just get a little desensitized, but kind of shook me a little bit deeper. I really liked that. I do think if I wasn't reading it for the podcast, I would just read it, not have to like think about it as much and analyze it, and
you could just enjoy it. Moving on to our next key moment, we have met our heroine, Maggie, which, funnily enough, you don't, in these first 5 chapters, she doesn't tell anyone her name. You don't learn her name in text. You have to know it like going in from reading the back or reading knowing the title of the series, Maggie the Undying. And it takes her until chapter 3 to see her appearance and get an appearance description, which the only thing that the authors really give us solidly about her appearance is a hair color. And later on, they had to, for series continuity, they had to tell their artists, hey, this is how else you should have her appear for artwork in the special editions of the book. Needed to have a cohesive look for that. So she's since developed more. But actually, in the text, it's really just she's got brown hair. That's really the only thing that they solidly commented on. At least at this point, we don't know her eye color.
They said she's pale.
Okay,
pale with brown hair. But that could be pale because she's been on the street for days. Like she could have any number of skin tones and still appear pale, but I assumed it to mean kind of pale skin.
She was intentionally created to be average and relatable. And I don't think that there was much commentary on her body or anything, except that she just said that it was her body on the average everything side and hers. I think that was a smart move by the author because it's just generally more relatable to people.
So her being relatable is actually a very specific choice by the writers. Maggie represents fandom, and they wanted her to be a character that you could see yourself fitting into as a fan of the genre. So they were purposely trying to be vague as much as they felt they could, with her appearance, with certain aspects about her, so that you could do a little bit of self-insert as you're reading the story and think, okay, how would I survive? What would I do differently? Things like that. The other thing that they mentioned is the inspiration for her appearance was Belle and Evelyn Rachel Weisz from like The Mummy, which I really like the interpretation of Evelyn from The Mummy as being somewhat who Maggie is mixed with Belle. In my head, that's kind of how she looks now.
I highlighted what the description because they say, I really liked this. They say that she is pretty like a normal person. And I was really appreciating that, right? Like not this super glam, not so, all the things that you might call out to be like so gorgeous. And so that I was like, that is a way to, I think most people could consider themselves looking like a normal person. So I like that distinction.
Yeah. I thought to myself when I read it, I was like, oh, thank goodness. I like this, but also I'm getting a little bit tired of it depending on the book. When the female characters that all the women want to be like, and we want to kind of embody and self-insert with the character, right? She wasn't a striking beauty. There wasn't like a lot of like contrasting elements that were described.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was a smart move. And the self-insert opportunity there, I felt was really good.
Moving on to our next key moment, what do you guys think of Kair Toren, the world that we've been presented with so far? I'm just grateful there's a fantastic map that, like, at the beginning of the book.
I feel like I got not a ton of an impression from it. It could be because I'm occasionally prone to not skipping, but like fast reading over description if it's not really buried with action. So, or like entwined with the action, I will sometimes skip over some of the things. So, but what I really liked was when she would describe like how long it took her to get from place to place. Thought that was a great detail that isn't often talked about. Like she had to hoof it across the city to get to all these different places. And she was, she was obviously underfed and underslept and everything, but and murdered and then resurrected. And, can I just talk about that for a minute? So, okay.
Yeah.
What I went into it, this kingdom will not kill me, I thought was like a vow. Like, I'm going to survive this. Like I said, I knew it was a portal fantasy and that was kind of it. And I was like, I will survive
like the dungeon
this no matter
collar. It won't break me, right? Like, is that what you're thinking?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And then she dies at the end of chapter 1. And I was like, wait, what? My first thought was either she's healing herself or it's like a Groundhog Day. And it's going to be like the same day over and over.
You thought it was going to be a time loop.
Day. I was really glad it wasn't because I didn't read the flap. In the flap it says. And then I was like, oh yeah, Maggie the Undying. And then I was like, oh yeah, this kingdom will not kill me is almost like whining about and then she's talking about all her murders and everything, or all the ways that she could imagine dying and having to come back. And it made it, so.
And then it's literally worse for her. Dying isn't the problem. It's all the ways that she can be tortured. Because she feels it all, right? Like she feels that she gets stabbed multiple times. She feels when her throat gets cut. Like there's the visual of the spray from her throat on Leke, the asshole's face, when he slits her throat, right? And as they're struggling for the bag before she throws herself off of the bridge into the water, which is like, it's such a nice fuck you to him. Like, I'm taking the gold, you killed me, but at least I get this, right?
Yes.
Oh.
So in that first chapter, before she's murdered, is it chapter 1 or chapter 2 after she's murdered? I'm not sure I remember. In which she says, like, she's talking about surviving. She wants to survive. She's been, starving on the street for a few days, curling up in cold locations, stealing a blanket, cutting holes into the blanket to put her arms into for quick escape as needed. And actually, I thought that was a great choice, too. Like, the author didn't go into those first moments and first days. It was just fact that it had happened. The author kind of opens up couple hours or whatever before she gets murdered the first time. And she says at some point, Kair Toren will not kill me. Okay. Like, I won't let Kair Toren, the place, kill me. And I was like, oh, smart choice. And then I was like, why didn't the authors say Kair Toren will not kill me instead of this kingdom? And then I was like, oh yeah, because Kair Toren, who's going to remember that unless it blows up really big, like Game of Thrones style, and we're all like, oh yeah, I don't remember the names of the cities in the Game of Thrones, so I take it back. But I felt like it was really good to just kind of go with generic, this kingdom will not kill me. It was a lot
Yeah.
catchy and descriptive without being over descriptive. I actually thought that maybe she was just injured or something, and so I was expecting her to like have to get healed or something. Nope.
I do have to say something that I really love about this is that for the reader, right? Like I'm a cozy fantasy reader. I want to know my characters are going to be safe. And so now I know, yes, Maggie can die. Yes, she can die horribly, but she's going to come back. But at the same time, I don't know, right? Like, does she have 9 lives? Is she going to run out of them? Is there a certain way if her whole body is burned up in fire? Is she going to come back from that, right? Like the author then explores by having her think about all these different ways that she could still die and it being permanent, that there being consequences. So it's both allows the reader to have some comfort in like certain things won't kill her and I can relax and this isn't going to become a story where like she gets killed off and it becomes someone else's, like it's not going to be a Allegiant Divergent, the Divergent series, right, where a character, spoilers, dies and the point of view changes, right? We're not, that's not going to happen. I now can trust the author. Like this point of view that this first book is in, that's who I get for this whole thing. I'm here for the ride. And yet the other possible awful things that can happen to her still give her stakes for when she makes decisions that could put her in danger.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I love the exploration of like, I could die this way. What would happen about this? I was actually thinking a lot about Jumanji, the movie series Jumanji, where they have a limited amount of lives because it's a video game.
Yeah.
Right. And so, because she wonders that, like, do I have a limited amount? And in Jumanji, they have marks. So they know how many, they figure out that they do have limited lives and that puts higher stakes. So her not knowing at this point, like, my assumption is that she might die again, maybe many times, which I'm kind of excited for. But
Wow, stage.
but then
Tell us how
she
you really
will come
feel.
back.
Dark.
I like the tension. I know. I like the action and the high stakes and the like tension. And like, well, knowing that she could die and will come back, like then every time she's in danger, the question will be for me, is this one of the times where she'll die and then come back? Or will it, I'm assuming it will happen again, but it might not till towards the end of the book. We'll see. But with Jumanji, like you knew there was this many lives, so you had to protect them. For her, not knowing kind of makes it even riskier.
Yeah.
Because it could just be that was the one time that she.
Yeah.
I have to not look at Zinzi when I
excited.
make any kind of comments because she knows.
I was trying real hard. I was like, don't move any muscles. Just give like a bland smile and nod your head and just gaze into the middle distance. No reveals
Just look at
here. I'm
Katherine.
working on my poker face. But theme of this episode is isekai'd. I've been isekai'd, and what does that mean? Isekai is the Japanese word for portal fantasy, although there are some differences that we see more in portal fantasy from the Western world than we do from the Asian stories. Other notable Western portal fantasies include The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and The Wizard of Oz. Like, those are classic, and those are technically portal fantasies. They've been around a long time. But as the genre developed in Japan, there are tropes and expectations that have come into those kind of stories, like how the main character ends up in the new world in the first place, and what kind of person is usually the person who ends up in these new worlds. Usually the kind of person that ends up in these worlds in Japanese fiction is someone who is like an exhausted office worker. Like sometimes they just die at their desks from overwork. There's a little bit of a balance that is thought of for those stories out of Japanese culture where because they had such an awful life the first time around, then whatever being or god or whatever it is benevolent enough that in their next life that they're going to have a cheat. In text, Maggie does a great job of summing up the usual isekai story for those who are unfamiliar. They're born, summoned, or they take over a body in this new world with their real world memories intact, which gives them an advantage in whatever new, usually medieval, world that they've ended up in. And they're given magic powers that often feel like a cheat as a way to balance out having an awful life experience before. Also in isekai, unlike Western portal fantasy, there's rarely a way home. Something else to consider is that isekai stories are often slice-of-life stories, where the exhausted worker gets to relax and live a slower-paced life. Kair Toren is not that kind of place. I don't think we're seeing slice-of-life, we're just gonna enjoy and have a great time over here. The scales have balanced, right? Doesn't feel like that kind of story. So we're already even though we're taking the isekai portal fantasy modern world character into this fantasy world that's medieval-ish, it is in no way going to be a fun, relaxing time for our main character.
It's kind of the opposite, though. Like, she said that she had this really cozy, lovely life that wasn't, like, exciting in any way, but it wasn't, like, the most amazing life, but it wasn't bad, and she was really happy there with her family and her apartment and the cozy reading, and so this is, like, the opposite of that.
So this was also an intentional choice by the authors in that they wanted Maggie to have a normal life. They did not want her to come into the story with her own tragic backstory, because it's not needed. There's tragic backstories galore in Kair Toren. And not every reader, because Maggie is this placeholder for readers like us, have had a tragic life or backstory. So it was part of the choice to make her as much of a reader inserts, represent fandom, represent the normal person who enjoys fantasy books as they could.
I like that Maggie also uses her knowledge of the world, not just for her survival, but also for her living arrangements or to find an income. I felt like that was very smart. The way that she considered her finances was good. It wasn't like, let's just survive and, oh no, there's a plot to kill the king, let's figure it out and go stop it. It's more like, I need money.
I gotta feed myself. I need a roof over my house. Yeah.
Sleep, have shoes. Yeah. So I appreciate
Not be naked on the street.
Well. Right. It wasn't just like drop me in. It also, a lot of isekai stories, like there's a swap and the character from the book goes into the other life. And then sometimes, or a lot of the time, the character from our world gets dropped into a book as one of the main characters, and they have to figure out if they're going to play the script as it's written or if they're going to change it according to their desires. And one of the tropes that's really popular is either the females are dropped into the main romantic interest's body, or they become the villainess. And it's usually the one that like created all this conflict and hardship for the main character. So they get an opportunity to either be the villain or to rewrite the villain's script and be essentially a better human and live a potentially better life and like maybe not get murdered by everybody else in the book, kind of a thing. So like those are my familiarity with current isekais that I've read or been exposed to.
I think my most, like, I've read a bunch of books that are more like Western portal fantasy, all kinds, but I'm thinking specifically about books where the character ends up in a book that they've read, and there's a number of them that I've read, but my favorite is The Magicians, which I love this series so much. The Magicians is really different because the main character has these childhood books that he loved that was kind of like Narnia. The land like was reminiscent of Narnia, so really different than like this world that Maggie finds herself in, which way more says Game of Thrones to me than Narnia. But the idea that you are this fan of these books, right? You love them so much, and to be able to be in that world. And when in The Magicians, when the main character ends up in that world, it's not as idealistic as he expects. And it doesn't happen until much, much later in the book. He has like a whole thing that happens with magic school and whatnot before that. But with Maggie, she's like, we start the book and she's there, right? So it's so not idealistic either. And it's really cool to like imagine yourself. What books do you love and how would it actually be? Like, I love the Hunger Games. Do I want to find myself in the Hunger Games? Probably not. And I know like a lot of books that I read, the author clearly loves books also, and they write their main characters as loving books, and there'll be stacks of books everywhere. And this like is a step further with the love of story, of writing a story about the main character who loves a book so much and finds themselves in it. I think it's like so charming.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, we did see a little bit about what she loves about this world and in these books as well. I mean, we touched on like the dark bits that were like, oh, so it's a darker fantasy or it has darker elements in it. But we also see some of the beauty of the magic and the world that she fell in love with, the things that like made her feel cozy and warm on the inside that she was really excited to see. So that was really awesome as well.
I have this line pulled up that relates to that, which is, there is no safety in Kair Toren. It was the kind of place you visit only from the comfort of your home, while wrapped in a blanket and sipping some hot cocoa for courage. You dove into it, let it thrill you, and crush your emotions, and then surfaced, grateful to be back in your own little corner of existence. That's just like such a perfect way of like, yes, that is the fantasy reader experience, right? You just, for the most part, unless you're like, I'm going to go live in Hobbiton, you just want to visit, let it, thrill you, crush you, wring you dry if it's something that makes you cry. But then at the end of it, you want to come back to the comfort of your own home and your own blanket and your own kitchen and your air conditioning.
Also like that she could be surprised by the characters too. Like she'd read these books over and over and over again. And yet like the character Saltine, whatever his actual name
Solentine.
is. Solentine. Like it's not a character that was actually like had page time. He was just referred to and all of that.
So Solentine is, and she says this in text, Solentine is one of the points of view that she has read from. And he has some of the most extensive page time point of view wise. So like she is very familiar with that version of him, even though now as a living, breathing person in front of her, that's different, right? Who you imagine in your head when you're reading a book is not going to be the same as, oh, now you're a whole person. I didn't know you had, he doesn't as far as I know, but like I didn't know that you had a mole on your elbow. It wasn't referenced in the book. How dare you have a mole on your elbow? Because you're not the person that I imagined in my head, right? Like there's a little bit of her facing that as she meets these different characters that she's only had descriptions of and had her own versions of what that looked like. Because like even, Sage mentioned at the beginning where the introduction of she thought the Mage Tower looked one way and here it is in person. And one, it's even more impressive, but also it's not quite what she imagined it to be.
Like the humans too. There's one guy that the sleepless Duke, I guess, or whatever his name is. And he surprises her by being kind to her. And he's the first person to show her any kindness. Whereas in the books that she'd read, he was not known for any version of kindness at all. He was a daunting, impressive character, but not one that she expected to be kind to her. And as the first person to be kind to her too. I mean, obviously, like the authors are setting up multiple Chekhov's guns here. The fact that she won't die, this sleepless Duke, Saltine, and so many other like planted seeds that I can't wait to see when those triggers get pulled, so to speak, because that's the anticipation that keeps me like going. Suspicion. Can I talk about my suspicions yet?
Yeah, I'm ready to do that too.
Cool. All right, let's move.
I have this. Sweet.
But you only through chapter 5, Catherine. You cannot spoil
anything chapter 6
plus. Has to be from chapter 5 is when she leaves the fabric store or whatever and disappears into the streets.
Okay. Yes. Awesome. Then, good thing for these summaries, keeping me on track here. Thank you, Zinzi, for that. I know what happens and where things stopped, so I can stop. You can just like shush me if need be. But I have this suspicion that at least one of those guns is going to get pulled really early on. And like, I mean, the figurative Chekhov's gun, which in the writing world is like you use an element in the book, you plant it early on to be used later. And the theory is that everything that gets page time is important and relevant. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting your reader's mind, like their time and attention, because you're cluttering up their brain with not useful things. This Chekhov's gun is like you walk into a room and there's a gun on the wall. Therefore, if you have commented on it and taken up that much effort to plant the seed, you've got to use it. And I think that this Maggie dying is going to happen pretty early on. Like, I don't think that the authors are going to wait a whole lot and build up too much anticipation there.
She dies?
Yeah, I think it won't be more than a few chapters.
Okay.
But I haven't read far enough to have any validity on this one way or another. I just have a suspicion, or maybe she like almost dies or something like that.
Frequent occurrence, considering she's the Undying.
I don't know if it happens frequently, but I definitely know they're important characters, like the ones already mentioned, will figure it out relatively quickly. She goes by Maggie the Undying, and I think that there will be relevance to at least a few of the characters understanding why she is the Undying.
I would love from each of you at this point in the story, give me your best guess into how many times she's going to die in this first book.
In this book.
7
I was
times.
going to say more than 10.
Is it only once?
Oh,
Hey, no, nothing.
not
I
gonna
just
say.
said more than 10 because Catherine said 7. And so
because
I wanted
Catherine
to
went
be higher.
7?
No, don't tell us. Don't.
I'm not going to tell you, but I am going to say, like,
Give me a facial
you-
expression.
you just assume that she's going to
Okay.
become an assassin and that's going to
No.
be in all the rest of the book. How is a person who's like, I want shelter and
3.
safety gonna get murdered?
Is taking up a role as a spy. She is like the spy whisperer.
3 times.
Right? Like, so yeah, I'll say 3 also. But setting
Okay,
yourself
all
up
right.
to like be this keeper of secrets and to like, that is a very
Yeah.
dangerous role. Just gonna say.
Yeah. I mean, we've already introduced her to multiple dangerous characters.
There's no shortage of danger, but she is
Yeah.
smart.
I was noticing, same thing, Chekhov's got an idea. So there is very early on page like 5, there's mention of the author of the original of the book series that she read.
Right?
Yes,
Adrian
Adrian
Latour. And I think he's there too. And that he hadn't written the 3rd book, which maybe he wrote it and it never got
Mhm.
published. We don't know that yet. But
When he was
so I
isekai'd
think
into her world.
I think one of my early predictions is that he was the unnamed man at the
The tavern.
Golden Eyes in the
brothel
Garden.
or whatever. Yes,
Oh.
the guy there.
Golden Eye in the Garden.
Well, there was 2 people. There was that guy that chased her, and I was like, she's making it out like
Mhm.
that is some villain who's gonna rape her or whatever, and murder her again. But he could
Mhm.
also be somebody really important in the story that recognizes her. Could be this author character, or maybe that man that she didn't name, who talked to her.
Get her attention.
Maybe that was
Yeah.
the author. He said something about how we were both like pretending to be people we weren't. But then I also thought he could be like the king or some high up noble that hasn't been introduced. Those
Okay.
were my
Yeah.
predictions.
Those are great predictions. I can give clarity. The guy that chased her outside of the garden just does not matter. Just that's part of the nobles like to go to the garden because it is dangerous to travel. If you have your own guards, you're probably fine. But if you don't, like someone who comes out of there drunk is rife for thieves and opportunists to pick pockets, steal stuff, and go after you. So the guy who chased her down at that point in the story, irrelevant. All right, was there anything real quick that a favorite moment or a line or something you guys wanted to chat on?
I was so glad when she got a bath. I feel like that was my favorite moment. It's like, thank God she has a bath. And that she got shoes, because after reading Dungeon Crawler Carl recently, I was like, thank God she got shoes.
I'm excited for everything.
Also thought there was this lovely section where she like talked about how if she was dumped into a fantasy story, this is what she would expect. And it was to be like this noble lady or this villain or whatever. And there was always like reference to a hot dude. And I thought that those could be hints to something, but I don't know. Also, there was like numerous potential love interests. So I'm excited for that to kind of like there was all these men described out there.
There is. So this is also part of in a fantasy book, there's always lots of hot guys because it's a fantasy book. Everybody, the upper class is all extra pretty and they lean into that. Here, we've met 3 different men that have all been described as attractive, according to Maggie. And we will see what happens with any of them.
Excited for that. I'll have future predictions on those ones. At this point, I don't have any. I think it's too early
It's too
to know which one. Or maybe is it like reverse harem?
She
He has more than one love interest. Yeah.
I'd be fine with that.
But I am going to be recording my predictions as I go and posting them on our different channels as I read. If you want to make fun of me for being so wrong.
Oh, but don't tell her that she's wrong. Don't spoil it. Just tell her she's right on all of them. Say, yes, you're right. That's exactly what happened until she's confused, until she gets to it. Oh, all right. Your homework for the next episode is to read Chapters 6 through 10 read to the end of chapter 10. Do not start, Katherine, on chapter 11. We'll be doing our best to release these episodes weekly so that the wait for the next section won't be too long. Outside of the podcast, we run monthly writing retreats as Book Dragon Inc., as well as weekly Zoom write-ins with me, Zinzi Bree, over on Substack with Write With Me, Zinzi Bree. We'd love for you to check those out, and you can find the links in the show notes. If you like our book stuff here on the pod, check out our Substack where you can support us directly. Thank you to Ria Nanku, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, for your support. It's really appreciated. You can always leave us a review. It helps little indie podcasts like ours get noticed. Thank you for tuning in. And as Maggie says in chapter 2, survive first, cry later. See you next time. Bye. Go do your homework.
Happily, yes.